maybe we need another substation northwest besides southeast. You know what I'm saying? That type of thing, so it would really be helpful.
That is why we've come to open the door of communication.
I think that's great.
There are trigger points, but we can guesstimate on them, but until we have a little bit more drill down, those trigger points will change. Like I was telling Trustee Richardson, we're going to need another fire truck.
Okay.
That's 3 years build time.
Oh, okay.
So those are some of those triggers. Do we pull them now with the anticipation, or do we, where do we need to go? I'm currently trying to get our staffing up to a better level right now, just for what we have.
Right.
There are ratios per thousand firefighters, et cetera, et cetera. There's service demands, there's travel times, there's a lot of things that go into that. We did, and I've said it to Mike Cannon, we talked about it. The board has adopted the latest Ohio Fire Code, which gives me and you guys some say in the roads and the developments and how thick the roads have to be. So we've already taken a step to kind of help you a little bit. It also helps us.
Good.
The crux of the entire thing will be a lot of it. I hate to say that, it's going to be this. Is at what point in time do we buy that fire truck that's going to cost $800,000 that we don't have to pay for 3 years? But what is our long-term planning? What is our short-term goals? All those things. So as we looked at that, that's why I went through this and just point out a few highlights of what I've seen, things that are already triggering us to have discussions about where do we need to be and what are we going to do in the future? What does the future hold? So if we've got, and even talk about more people, we are all competing. We just hired 6 part-time firefighters. All 6 of them have interviews at Newark this week for full-time jobs. We are all competing for the same labor pool.
Right.
So there's so many more facets that you guys don't need to worry about that we can take care of for you. But we need to have that. We need to start having more conversations or attending. We're going to try to start attending more just so we can hear what you guys say. And then we can take notes and then we can throw you guys off some memos. Hey, if you do this, then we're going to need this.
Okay.
We'll need that.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And we have time for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's why we want to get it early. Yeah.
And I appreciate that because like I said, once we have that on our brains that we know what you're looking at, that when we have conversations and it's quite in depth right now. We're just overwhelmed. But we know what certain people are looking for. We know what we need. We're talking roads, water. So all of a sudden, if fire automatically comes into that train of thought, now I'm thinking roads, water, fire. They're just automatic. And then I have numbers behind that in my brain. Not that we don't have to sit down and figure exactly later, but that would be great. That would really be great.
Yeah, that's why we wanted to get the partnership. We've tried to right the ship a little bit. Now we're ready to move the ship down the road. So that's why we're here.
Okay.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Really do.
Yes.
Just to follow up on what Jim was asking. The fire station now is about as centrally located in the township. You can get. Is it more likely that you need more equipment or a new station, a branch station?
It will depend on, we're either going to need to do a branch station or we're going to need to do something about this building. Based upon when we sat with the developer and what they told us the population could be, that automatically triggered a new station down there. In the first area that we see comes southeast, yes, okay. That's that way. Yeah, that way. Okay.
You're good.
I'm from that way.
Yeah, I know.
So that is what and we kind of threw a ball out there and they kind of like, oh, so that's what we're thinking about. But I think regardless of what we do down there, we will still need to do something here to beef this up because by looking at how you guys have things laid out, we're still going to have responses up there, but a good majority of it's going to be to the south.
For now. And it's
For now. Yeah, we know what's going to happen. I know. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Now as we finish up the overlay, and then we'll do some subzoning and stuff. But as we move to the like northwest and northeast, there's some other points up there that either, yeah, you expand this station or you end up with another substation.
Mhm.
I don't know that would happen. I don't know. We'll have to talk about it.
And one of the things that we've talked about too is, you know, I know with the plan itself, Monroe's gonna have their hands full over in that area. But with growth in towards Trenton and stuff, do we start looking at partnerships with like VST and G?
That's what I.
Do we start looking at, we're going to take care of this, but we can do something here, you know? We're gonna remain Harlem, we're gonna take care of the people of Harlem, the residents of Harlem. But what can we do? Do I need to have this truck because I have one that's close? You know, that's a lot of mutual aid that goes into that. How, and then also too, how reliable is that mutual aid? You know, I mean, that's the thing everybody talks about, you just call for help, but how reliable is your help? Because your help's tied up. You know, so we have sort of, there's reliability studies, recovery studies, there's a lot of things that's why we're trying to get
Mhm.
with you guys so that we can start doing our end and help and take that load off of you.
Appreciate that.
A lot of your planning too, just, I think your conversations we've had, but I think for the whole group's knowledge, a lot of your need is going to be based on what the usage is in that area also.
Mhm.
If it's primarily residential, it's gonna be one thing. If it's a commercial
Mhm.
slasher, if God forbid, if we ended up with something up in that corner that was totally different,
Mhm.
that's
Yeah.
gonna have a real big bearing on what
Right.
your needs are gonna be.
Yes, sir, that is correct. That's gonna vary on what we're gonna need, what kind of equipment we're gonna need, you know, what's available. We're already talking with Columbus Fire. I talked to the chief the other day for their station, and we will start with Harlem and Central College.
Right.
He's waiting. Once that starts, we will start working with them, so that will help some of that area. I've talked to all the chiefs around. Everybody's in the same boat that I am right now. What are we gonna do? When is it gonna happen? And when do we pull the triggers? So, yeah. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
This is off the fire path here a little bit, but you keep talking about the developer that you guys had a meeting with. That's somebody that's got specific plans within Harlem Township. That's the guys, okay.
Now, this was just a sit down. I think they were feeling the waters and they threw some stuff out and I said, okay, you want to do this, that's fine, but then you're gonna have to do this. That's from the fire department standpoint. No area purchase, nothing set in stone, just an open discussion.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I just think, Chief, and I know we talk all the time, but just some of the things that might help the committee out, if you've got some spots that are like glaring deficits that you see that maybe you could get together a few bullet points of things we definitely need to keep our eyes on, because they're the most glaring and points that you're gonna need addressed earlier. That would help us. You know, it's not a whole lot of information, or maybe it is a whole lot of information, I don't know. But that we could have, so when we're going through these plans, those could be uppermost in our mind to say, well, you know, if that happens, he's definitely gonna need this. And then we know if you guys aren't here at the time, we've gotta, you know, I've gotta get with you the next day. or whatever.
Yeah, we can do that. And for the committee, one of the things that Mike and I are working on, I'm looking at changing our record management system. And part of that includes a module that Mike can use for zoning and building tracking and things like that. So we once or twice a day bump into each other and say, hey, what's going on here? What's going on here? And that was another thing with the fire code too. That helps. That gives him some more firm footing, especially with some, I know it doesn't involve this, but some of the nuisance properties he had, we can help him out. So, you know, so we are working, we're here to be a good neighbor and help. And we just wanted to, you know, come in and give you a couple points and let you ask questions and we'll just sit down and be quiet. Maybe.
I appreciate that.
I'll believe that one.
Yeah.
They've met me more than that. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief.
Appreciate it.
I don't have the agenda in front of me, but I believe we're just gonna go ahead and move to Molly and Holly. The Molly and Holly show.
Molly's pulling that up on the screen. I'm gonna pass this around and then I have a few housekeeping items I wanted to go over with you as well. Wanted to let you know that the MU mixed use overlay that is in the hands of the zoning commission right now. That is with my legal,
Actually,
did you need to print out? Okay.
he does.
I've got it on my computer, but I can write on this one.
The firm that I use for legal review, they have had it for a few weeks now. So I followed up with them tonight before I came here asking them when they would have it, and my hope is that they would have review back to me by Monday's meeting on April 24th, and the zoning commission's going to talk about it. So I just wanted to give you that update. I also have a meeting set with, Delaware County Economic Development for next week. They want to go over some of their One Columbus pipeline, and look at some of those smaller sized, lighter industrial uses that you guys discussed at your last meeting. So I'm gonna see what they have, and I can bring that back to you guys after the meeting. And then, George from our office, attended the framework meeting in Licking County, to see, how they're looking at their broader framework. I think Tom, you were there and sat next to him. So the one thing that he came back and told me about was that at Licking County, they're telling them that the housing is going to not be as fast there because of the infrastructure not being there. So they think most people are gonna buy houses in Franklin County versus coming out to Licking. Now, I still think Harlem Township is going to see a lot of housing development because your sewers are gonna be here. And then, I mean, you're gonna be building housing right when Intel is starting, whereas in Licking County, by the time the sewer, you're gonna get.
We're gonna get hit harder and faster.
Holly, if you don't mind, I have a motion I'd like to bring up before we start getting into the plan. I'd like to make a motion on the following. On the CRCD being section 33.04, to officially remove the 3-family dwellings and not to add 4-family dwellings into the zoning overlay. As we believe there will be more suitable options available later in the planning process in these areas for these types of units. And I would ask for a roll call vote.
We'll need a second.
I have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Tom, if you would, please do a roll call vote.
Mike Cannon, yep.
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Bruce,
Approve. Can't do it on Zoom.
Hang on, somebody trying to say something.
that was Bob.
That was Bruce.
Oh,
Yeah, no, Bruce said yes.
Zoom is no longer acceptable
For voting?
Okay,
for voting.
okay. Carl.
What?
Yes.
Yes. I'm sorry, I was. Yes, but I'm gonna ask a point, Bob. Is that not on official governmental voting?
This is official. Now,
This is?
it doesn't matter. As long as you have a majority of the members present, it doesn't matter whether Bruce votes or not. So
We do, but I just want
Have.
clarification because I thought that was only a true governmental entity.
well, you are a true
I
government.
am, but this committee is not
The
necessarily.
committee is, you are appointed by the trustees.
It's immaterial.
Molly,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
we have a vote of six aye and no nays.
All right.
Motion passes.
Awesome. So that basically I don't know, if we got that cleared up in here, Holly, but that should have taken care of that issue.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Holly.
Yes. Molly, you can take over now.
Okay, so. Our first edit I wanted to talk about, was the boundary. So in versions past, this aerial map, this one in yellow was the one that had been included. But then most of our discussion has been about this blue and red sub area. So wanted to hear from you about, do we want to keep that northern portion in the CRCD? Do we want to remove it? If we keep it, what's the dwelling units per acre. And so on and so forth.
Okay. There's been a lot of discussion on this. We don't take these lightly. So after your and my discussion on this, that northwest quadrant was originally delineated to have 500 acres for an NCA just early because of Galena. And talking to my cohorts, we were trying to decide, no, we didn't originally plan to have it where the blue and the red in the southern part of the township on this particular overlay. However, when you brought that up, we started talking about it. We are on a timeline to try to get this to the zoning commission. If we get delayed tonight or whatever, and now we're trying to get through this, we feel that we might have enough time if we can't get it to the zoning commission, or if we have to do something administratively to discuss that area and maybe include it into this overlay. There's some things that we would like Holly to contact Galena about. And but it would save us a lot of time in the future if we did include that. So I'm glad you brought that to my attention. That wasn't our intention, but now that we have it in front of us. So with that being said, originally, no, we did not want to include it. But if we run over on time as far as getting, because it only take, by the time we get done, it only take less than a week to get this, get this to you and get it included. Which you can change, and then our overlay will be bigger. If we run out of time and we can't get to the zoning commission in time, we don't want to hold them up. So then this will end up being another overlay. But there are some things that we want to do, but I want to thank you for bringing that to our attention. And towards the end of the meeting, I think we can address it again as to time wise and what our thoughts are, but we did bring that up and thank you. So if we could sort of table it towards till the end of the meeting.
Right.
How are we doing?
The schedule right now, the next regular meeting of the zoning commission is Monday, May 1st. The next regular meeting of the strategic planning committee is Tuesday, May 2nd. So if we don't take this up until May 2nd, the zoning commission won't have it in time to set a hearing date. They should have it by, best case, they should have it by the 1st, before the 1st. So they can set a hearing 30 days, sometime 20 to 40 days after that date.
So we would want to make a decision on whether to include that section or not by the end of today's meeting.
Or not, and just pass this along. And do the other as an amendment to it or as a separate article, but
Wouldn't
or added.
it be more logical and with the time constraints that we're on to have that be an additional overlay? Because one thing I don't know that we've really even considered, that it's kind of been in the back of my head, that corner. What is the capacity potential coming from Galena?
Right, and I don't think we have all of those.
We need that information
Right.
before we
That was-
decide.
Yeah, we were gonna have Holly call it.
Because I guess where I'm going with that is, if we go bigger than we need to, then why did we? But if we don't go big enough to protect it,
Mhm.
and the person says, I can go across the street and I can put 6 houses per acre, we don't want to cut off our nose to spite our face. We can get this, if we can get this passed through this board tonight, get it into zoning.
Then the only change at that point would be a change in the map. That's
Yeah,
Yeah.
we would just use,
The text all stays the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
right,
that's,
To me, that would be the logical way to go about this.
Do it that way.
so let's see the end of the day, how far we get, if we're ready to approve it. Good.
Perfect, okay. So then moving on into permitted usage, we remove the 3-family. So now the only permitted uses are, single family and then the common law, single family attached dwellings, as well as open space. For stormwater, we added that additional language that prevents any downstream impacts. And then clarifies no water shall be allowed to be released above and beyond what was released pre-development.
Hey, quick question. Hey, this is Bruce. In F, did we ever discuss whether Miller Paul should be added to that center line? Setbacks we're talking about, we listed Harlem, Gorsuch, Robbins, Green Cook.
I ever recall having that, decision made, but I'm sure that.
What part of Miller Paul, Bruce, are you referring to?
Well, I mean, if you look at what goes up Miller Paul, there are several, at least large parcels around there. So if any of those were acquired, I guess, wouldn't we want the same type of situation we had on Harlem, Gorsuch, and Robbins and Green Cook? I'm asking the group for consideration. I don't have anything specific in mind.
From my viewpoint, I think it should be added in.
Which area?
Lower wall. So where we talked about setback from the center line, where it says Harlem, Gorsuch, Robbins, and Green Cook, we would add Miller Hall into that.
Right.
Which makes sense to me. I mean, it's another one of the major roads, right?
And if we do Miller Hall, that's acceptable. Should
Oh,
we
I
do-
see what he's talking about. Okay.
Should we do County Line?
You're talking about the road setback?
Yeah.
Yes, yes, and F as in Frank.
Yeah,
We got you.
Should we do Red Bank?
We're slow.
F.
That
Right.
other fan is also not listed. I mean, like, what?
Well, Fantasy's not listed because it's in the NDA.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, you're right. And we have that covered in the NDA. Your
You're
county line, if we do county line, I would recommend making it equivalent to State Route 605, because I see that being a major north-south road in the future.
I agree with that. And Red Bank is basically the western boundary.
Then, yes.
So it doesn't go all the way up.
you're talking about, when you say county line.
East County line, right?
East, okay, thank you.
South County.
I'm sorry, well, yeah, South County line on the east side. yeah.
Okay,
I would say Red Bank would fall in the Harlem Gorsuch Robbins. Okay,
So we'll add Miller Paul Road and Red Bank Road to the second category. We'll add South County Line to the 605 category.
correct, yes.
We could come back to this or not, but I think we've talked about this before. I think that the distance should be from the right of way, not from the center line.
Well, that's the thing, is that, that's why I did this, because yes, they will be dedicating right of way. But not everybody has dedicated right of way by the time they get to your zoning. So you have to do it from center line to protect those lots that go to the center line.
Then we've got to increase the feet. I think because 75 feet from the center line of 605, I don't think it gets you.
That's where you start your right of way line. That's saying the proposed right of way shall be considered 75 feet from the center line. So that would give you 150 foot right of way, which is your 5-lane road.
Proposed right of way show. So you're saying that, okay, that's not the way I read it. I read that the setback would start at the edge of the right of way, basically.
So basically what we're saying is because not everybody has dedicated right of way. We're gonna say that the right of way is 75 feet from that center line.
Oh,
So
okay.
150 foot wide road.
150 foot wide. So on your property, 75 feet from the center line, that's gonna be considered your right of way line. Then your 200 foot setback starts from that line.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, I missed that last sentence.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it gets smaller on the smaller roads.
Correct, yep.
So the next edit, is just some. I just needed to update these, to reflect the 2 sub areas instead of the 3, so just updating that. So then our next edit is in street lighting. We've added clarification language, that the light fixture height shall not exceed 12 feet as measured from the ground to the highest point of the light fixture, and then we've added a little graphic. in there
Thank you.
As well.
That was my pet peeve. Thank you.
Maximum lighting.
There is not.
Well, this has like the foot candles, so.
Yeah, that's a measurement.
Next edit is down here in parking, common wall dwellings has been increased from 1.5 spaces per dwelling unit as the minimum to 2. Then just the removal of the 3 dwelling units. And that is the last edit that was in this document.
Good. I've got a few things I want to bring up to the group. If we can go back to the beginning. So in the preamble, under 3301 purpose. In the third, I went back to, section 519.021C, actually 021, to see what the wording was, and one where I think the wording you have is the wording that's in the zoning resolution now, and it's missing, it doesn't match what's in 519.021. So where it says promote greater efficiency in public utility services, it should say, if it were to match the ORC, it should say greater efficiency, promote greater efficiency in providing public and utility services. And I think that word "and" is particularly important. Now we're talking about public services and utility services, not just utility. And if everybody's okay with that. At the bottom of that paragraph, section I. Maybe you can. Make that bigger.
This,
Yeah, that last sentence. So allows for smaller lots that may be supported by central sewers. I don't think that's strong enough. I don't think it may be supported. They have to be supported by. And whether you want to say allows for smaller lots that are served by central sewers or must be served. I don't know how you want to change that.
I changed it to R because when you go back into the requirements, which we don't have right now, because those are still regional planning. That will say that they have to be tied in.
Okay, so lots that are. And then instead of supported, is served a better word.
Yeah.
All right. So we're okay there. Get down to section 3302, the last line. Where it says this amendment to the Harlem Township. Oh, I think it's got to say Harlem Township zoning resolution. And I guess there's some date.
yeah,
And maybe put in the word "on" and then we'll leave the date over. You okay there? Your map. We were talking about maybe turning it sideways or making it a full page so that it's easier to read. Trying to find a copy where the parcel the parcel boundaries are more distinct. And maybe putting in some road names.
I was just gonna say, we need to add it.
Instead of the Church of the.
Yeah, those are like, yeah, GIS things. We're gonna have to go in on PDF and just add the road names in. GIS doesn't do it, though.
And then a small, a small thing. The text calls out CRC borders multiple times, and then map heading is sub-area boundaries, so it should have been borders or boundaries, but not, I don't think it should be both.
I think it should be boundaries, so like in the text, I think we should change CRCD boundaries in the map below. We call it a sub-area boundary.
We'll leave it as sub-area boundary map. And then change the word borders, because it shows up 2 or 3 times. Just change that to boundaries. Okay. On the last paragraph, where it says township zoning resolution for purposes of, would insert the word section 519.12 of the Ohio Revised Code, but may be appealed pursuant to chapter 2506 of the, and I would insert Ohio Revised Code. Good.
Can you write down?
Put you through all this, in that same section 3303, we talk about provisions of the CRCD multiple times. And then in the last 2 paragraphs, we change that to CRCD regulations. I think it should be CRCD provisions throughout the entire paragraph or the entire section. So there's, if the zoning commission determines that the application, that paragraph, we change that to CRCD provisions. And then at the last sentence in that, the last sentence in that same paragraph, can file a chapter 2506 appeal pursuant to, again, it's section 519.02 of the Ohio Revised Code. Anything else? Provisions, and then in the next paragraph, the 3rd line, the underlining zoning regulations, I think should be good provisions.
Go back.
Yeah.
I like regulation better.
Okay,
I'm just looking up provision now, and to me, provision is not strong. Regulation is something that they have to comply with. Provision to me sounds more like you're providing them with.
We can adjust it.
Yeah.
or should we say resolution? I mean, that it's the zoning
I think
resolution.
regulation is a, I mean, it's a regulation. It's etched in stone.
Yeah.
Change all of it.
Whatever you read.
That's I mean, me. the
That's
group-
fine.
But either way, be consistent throughout, so if it's.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll keep it consistent, but I think we should change it all to regulation.
I've got it once, twice. 3. I think it's 3 times its provisions and twice its regulations.
We can do a word search.
Okay. And then again, at the very end of that last paragraph, an amendment to the Harlem, to the township zoning resolutions, I think it should be resolution. There are other things like that. I don't want to go into this, but section 3304, where we made the change, we deleted 3-family house dwelling. I'm not sure that, to me at least, common wall, single-family attached dwellings, is that, to me, that doesn't mean 2-family dwellings.
Why it's defined, so you have to click on it
go to it. So the definition says a building designed for 2 dwelling units where each dwelling shares one common wall. And the remaining sides of the building are surrounded by open areas or street lines. So has a specification too.
Under the definition of dwellings.
Yes, or under the definition of common wall.
Common wall definition.
We don't have to put in. Because that's in the definition. I don't know that we have those definitions yet.
They were provided a while ago.
I changed that to you this afternoon, but I can put them up on my.
Will those be included with Article 4, which is the definition article in the resolution now?
So those definitions are all definitions for all the overlays, so that they're going with the MU too.
But I get, where will people be able to see those definitions?
In your definition section.
So they'll be incorporated into Article 4. Okay, that's. And is this the time to talk about? When is it dwelling, not a dwelling? When is it dwelling unit, not a dwelling?
So, yeah, well, I have that on my list and I didn't get into that. George and I discussed it. Do you want to talk about the article or you? Okay, so let me, high level, there was a article in the business first. And there is a court case that is going through the system right now, where there's been an interpretation that if you say dwelling and versus dwelling unit can mean a portion of any part of the building, but if you say dwelling, it's the whole building. It's, you have to read the article. I think it's a stretch. George thinks it's a stretch. And it is going through the courts right now, so there's no ruling on it.
Well, the
So-
first ruling was.
Yeah,
that-
correct, but it's being
yeah,
appealed.
Yeah,
It's being appealed and I don't think it's very strong. But what I do think, having read all of them, is that normally, I will say in a mixed-use building, that a mixed-use building in that definition is retail on the bottom, dwelling units on the upper floors. And we do not, for some reason, in this definition, in what we gave you, say that. So I would like to revise that definition to include that if you're doing a mixed-use building, you have to have retail on the bottom. So that's what this court case is all about. They said you had to have mixed-use buildings. Somebody in the affordable housing industry doesn't want to do the retail on the bottom. They're trying to make arguments over their definition, but they can do a whole building apartment versus having retail on the bottom.
And that's what this dwelling versus dwelling unit is.
Yeah, so we have dwelling units in our definition because dwelling units are part of those mixed-use buildings. Where I do think we could improve a little bit is in the definition of a mixed-use building. And
Yeah.
saying that the dwelling units have to be on the upper floors and the first floor has to be.
Common sense isn't so common anymore.
No,
So that's gonna apply more to the mixed use overlay than it is this one, because you cannot allow mixed use buildings. In this overlay.
I mean, do we have the time to incorporate that updated definition?
Yes, it's going to the zoning commission on the 24th. And most likely not getting recommendations of a first, I think. So and then it has to go to the trustees, and we can change it anytime. Very nice.
Section 3304 permitted uses, number C, the end of that last sentence. We have taken the word final out in terms of development plan, because there is no other development. There's no preliminary, there's no contingent, it is the development.
And where are you?
This is 3304 C.
Okay, back on.
So I just searched on final and took it out, and it comes up a lot.
Okay.
Section 3305 prohibited uses. So instead of saying,
To be removed. You saw that multiple places?
Yeah.
Okay, removed them all.
yeah, so we don't have anything that's called a final development plan, it's just the development. And Scott has that capitalized, we don't, but I'm not going. Section 3305. H and I. I think were pulled from something else. They don't think they belong in this.
They do not.
And a small thing on 3305A, the first line. I think article should be capitalized, but. Section 3306. We should say see article 3032 for the procedure. That section. And I think the heading should match what's in the text. Procedure to apply for a CRC overlay is what I would call it. Because we don't have subdivision defined anywhere, I don't think, and I don't want to get into that. 3307. D. Open space shall be owned, administered, and maintained as identified on the development plan pursuant to section 3308. And I would add after that of this article. Nobody looks in the ORC. And with prior consent to resolution of the Township Board of Trustees. I would take out of Township. Approve this part of the final, again, the final comes out. And again, the next line, final development plan, final comes out. But are not limited to, still with me? I would take out trails and put in passive. Which we would read passive and active recreation. And then.
You want to say, may include but are not limited to.
Passive and active recreation.
Okay.
Or recreation areas. And the next to last line, dedicated open space for public use shall be at the discretion of the Township Board of Trustees. Section B, number 4. Open space must be clustered. And I'm just following with the wording in the preamble is to achieve the purpose. And then section C, number 3. I don't know if we need to go into outside the conservation areas based upon the permitted density calculations. Do you want to refer to where that is actually shown? Which is in section E, I guess.
I'm not following what you're saying.
Well, in number C, in letter C, number 3. Draw house footprints and lot lines outside the conservation areas based upon the permitted density calculation.
Oh, and then reference.
And
the
where does
density.
that, where do you find that permitted
That's
density?
what you're saying. Okay.
In that same section C. For site design standards, letter triple I. All house lots must be within 3/4 of a mile of the open space. I think that's too much. My argument is that 3/4 of a mile, I know what we talk. My argument is that 3/4 of a mile is 4,000 feet. And the 25-acre parcel is 1,000 feet on an edge, if it were simply a square. So you're talking about 4 times bigger, 4 times further than the size of the potential development. So I would make it, and we talk about 400 feet. And that would be 1 parcel on the open space and two parcels behind it that can see the open space. And the fourth parcel would have to be back on the open space. Roughly.
Platform, you know.
Then going down to D number 1. This may be the last major look at. So in terms of defining open space, and hang in there with me, in terms of defining open space, we're talking about 50% of the,
We look
This is not the garden club, is it?
over the Grange,
Where is
the
it?
Grange Hall off of Woodtown.
Open Center Village.
If you go up, excuse me, go at
I'm
it.
sorry,
No,
everybody.
you're fine. You go out of here. Just go head north to the, for the four-way stop.
Yeah.
I'll tell her.
Okay.
And you.
I was halfway there. Okay.
I was following
Not
it.
the garden.
Let's have a quick wish. So what we're saying is the open space has to be 50% of the total acreage. Right?
The net developable.
No, the open space. is
The
50
open space,
the open-
correct,
yep,
yes,
The open
okay.
space is 50%
Yes.
of,
Yes.
of
The
of
gross,
gross.
correct.
And the net developable acres that you is some percentage of the whole, and some percentage that eliminates rights of way and floodplains and power lines and easements, right? But that's a calculation we don't do. The regional planning will do it, or a surveyor will do it. That net developable acres is what the
Density.
is what the density is, but it's not 50% of the net developable acres. What you've got here in D1, I don't think is correct. It's you take into account all of the net developable when you're determining density. You want me to run, you want to run through it yourself?
So.
One is open space, 50%.
Correct.
And one is density, which is based on net developable acres.
Right.
Right, and that could be, so the example that we use to muddle through this ourselves. If we take 100-acre site,
Right.
gross acre,
50 acre. Open space.
50 acres open, 50 acres. Not,
Right,
and then if you take that same 100 acres and you say that. Pull a number out of thin air, 75% of it is developable acres,
right,
right? So you have 75 acres, that's net developable acres. 2 dwelling units per acre gives you 150 dwelling units.
Right.
But not on 75. 150 dwelling units on the 50 acres, yeah,
right.
so it's not 50% of the,
I see what you're saying. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, we had a long discussion on that. Trying to figure it out.
They need to be
Yeah,
changed
real
to
long.
actually reflect what we think it.
Township employees worked on that all.
I think that's.
It's about time.
The whole last sentence.
Yeah, because down at in the table, it says maximum dwelling units per net developable acre.
Yeah.
That's all you need. Yeah,
Okay, so that statement about these units shall not exceed 50% is more confusing than anything.
yeah, that was more just to explain it when we were talking in the planning phases, but now that it's being broken down like this, we don't need it.
Okay, on my page 7, which is section 3307. N. Third paragraph. All dwellings shall include a garage of a minimum of, we come back to 480 square feet. 20 by 24.
Okay, everybody else uses 580.
Do they really?
Yes,
And
every
our-
community.
Our resolution is 480 all the way through the book.
Yeah, well, if you're 480, we'll do it, but.
I was gonna say, I don't think my garage is 580 square feet, pretty sure it's not. I just built a year ago.
That's fine, we'll go.
That's just minimum, I mean, they can.
There you go.
Yeah, so, okay.
Well, what's 580? Is that 20? No,
24 by 20, isn't it?
I think that's what 480 is.
Twenty-four by 24.
And I think maybe the last question I have is 29 by 20. Is in section, maybe in the same section. Yeah, we're still in 3307. Section V is in Victor divergences. So we have the zoning commission may grant divergences with the exception of. With the exception of density, which we agree on. The percentage of required open space, which we agree on. And we talked about adding and permitted uses. Right. So that they don't have the authority to change those three. Areas. And I don't know if that's what's written into the MUs.
I will check that. I don't think the permitted uses is in there, because we talked about that after the fact. So we will leave the text that is in.
And then on the very last page, I don't know if this page is intentionally blank. If that comes up in the right spot, because usually it comes up in the middle of a page with other text on.
International page. I think it was at the bottom, it was like the bottom of the page, and it just got bumped to the top of the next.
Yeah. So sometimes it belongs, but
Yeah. Yeah, it's when you made it a clean copy, it bumps everything, so you can't really, like, until we're at final stage of what everything looks like, we can't do the intentionally left blank spots. It bumps around.
so if nobody has any questions or objections. My rambling commentary.
Yeah, Hawkeyes.
I was gonna say, there's a lot of, you must have been a good editor.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Or whatever they- I'll make a motion that we approve Article 33 clustered residential conservation district. For submission to the zoning commission. With the changes discussed at this meeting.
We have a motion to approve the CRCD as basically corrected.
Oh, I just, what is it? Should we, do we have enough time? We have enough time, I think, to talk about Northwest before we go ahead and approve this. Maybe we should approve it with a change in the map.
I don't know. Based on questions, I don't know if we have enough time to chase down the answers that we need.
Okay, so
I would keep this one moving in mind.
Yeah, well, we want to keep this moving. I'm not gonna stop this.
Yeah.
But I don't know that we can add that northwest quadrant like we were talking because of, like, there's too many questions. We need to talk, we need to have Holly have several discussions with Colina. And we don't have time right now.
So I'll leave my motion as it's. Okay,
I have a motion to approve the CRCD. Do I have a second? Second. And that is approve it with the corrections made tonight. Correct.
Correct.
Do I have a motion is second? Do I do a roll call?
Cannon,
Yes.
Larry,
You can't vote.
Can't vote.
Sorry. I'll vote yes. Richardson,
Yes.
Snodgrass,
Yes.
Steel Smith,
Yes.
motion passes 6-0.
Awesome.
Go.
Do you want to see the definition?
Sure.
Go, so it's in your hands.
Which one is that?
No, it'll be in your hands.
What?
Now it's in the zoning commissions. We just pushed it over to you.
Yeah, well, I heard, but.
I think this question is coming at you, so.
I have a question. So because Scott is working on the procedures,
Yes,
this committee's moving this on without procedures. How is that working with this group?
What is Scott working on? Because I'm kind of in the gray here.
he's working on redoing the procedures for Article 13, which is PRCB. We're saying that whatever procedures we have for the PRCB, which we've gone through, we spent 2 or 3 hours with Scott at zoning commission meetings, going through that and modifying the procedure along what we had discussed. I'll go through that. That we'll use the same procedure for the CRCB. This is what we just approved.
Are we gonna get to see these procedures that Delaware County's coming up with for us?
I'll go through them with you right now. I'll give you a basic walkthrough. Yes, there'll be, one, it's gotta be an amendment to the existing resolutions, or the existing Article 13, which is the PRC. And then we're talking about whether it should be a standalone article, which refers to PRCD and this CRCD. That'll be the same procedure, whether it's with sewers or without sewers. Otherwise, it doesn't really change much.
Okay, bear with me. The current PRC that we have,
Yes,
we're wanting, he's saying we need to make procedural changes to that.
yes.
Once again, forgive me, bear with me, if we do that. Do we not open that back up, the potential referendum?
Yes,
Clarification though, it will, what's on the books doesn't go away. The new version would be what would be referendable. And if a referendum as it goes and it votes down approval of the new PRCD language, then the old PRCD language continues to be in effect.
So it will not and cannot affect the current PRCD that we're working on. You know, we have,
The only way it affects it is if it goes through without being blocked.
if it doesn't fail,
In other words, yeah, thank you, John. But it will not affect what's there.
are the trustees not getting a PRCD tomorrow night?
yes,
Yeah, you're dealing with one.
Yes,
Yes.
we're deciding on it tomorrow night. So this procedural change cannot have an effect on that.
Oh, no, it will not, definitely
Okay,
not.
I just wanted to
Definitely
make sure.
not.
because
What causes me a little concern is that I don't know the timing of those procedures and when you go to receive this and set a hearing, are you setting it just on this? Or are you setting it on this and the procedures that I haven't seen? I don't know how that's working when it gets to the zoning commission.
I don't think we need,
so let me run through what we're changing today, all right? So what we had in place was a site analysis, right? What does the site look like? And a conceptual plan based on that, and then a walkthrough and then preliminary meetings. And then the application and submission of a final development plan. And a hearing at the zoning commission level. And then a recommendation to the trustees and a hearing at the trustee level. And all of that.
Okay.
We're trying to shortcut that. And we're saying that the site analysis and the conceptual plan and the walkabout will all get just crunched together. That all happens in that basically at one time. You don't need a real document. You don't really need a conceptual plan. Just tell us what you're thinking while we're walking around the site. Okay. Then we do 2 preliminary meetings. Go through what are your ideas in detail, whether they fit with what we have in the PRC and the design standards or not. And if you want a variance, what's the variance and what's the reason for the variance? Then we get a submission of a final development plan. Hearing on the final development plan. We make a recommendation to the trustees and they do not have another hearing. They simply deal with it in open session. People want to come and talk. Good. But there's no formal hearing on it. That formal hearing process takes another 30 or 90 days.
Exactly.
Right? And we're basically not going to have to do it. You still have the last word. You can, according to the procedures, you either get to approve, modify, or deny the record.
So we can accept it and basically do we still have to give the 30-day notice or
Yeah.
so all that's going away? We can accept it at an open hearing and vote on it.
There really is no hearing.
That's what's an open meeting.
That's open meeting. Yeah.
We're eliminating that.
Basically, yes.
Eliminating the hearing.
That would be the hope anyway, assuming these changes pass.
So what we're saying is the existing Article 13 that we're using for the PRCD that's going through now, that you're having a hearing on.
Yeah, we have to have a hearing on.
You have to have a hearing because that's the procedure. We will change that procedure to shorten the procedure and use that same procedure for this new article. For this Article 33, which is the CRC. Other than sewers and the density that sewers allow, there's not a lot of difference between the 2 articles. And we can use the same site analysis, preliminary meetings, final development plan, final hearing, and we're done with it.
I'm fine with using the same procedures for both. I think that makes sense. I just want to make sure when it goes to the zoning commission, it's getting both as part of what you're setting the hearing. If this goes through and there's no procedures, this does you no good.
Correct. Correct. But once we have, because this refers to Article 32.
Right.
Which is the procedural part of it. That we will refer to both in Article 13 will refer to
With the Article 32 going through the process.
as soon as we can get it written.
But that's the problem. This is going to the zoning commission for a hearing.
And it
You
references
References
a
a section that you don't have yet. That's not kosher. We can't do that.
Right, is the counties right doing this for us?
Well, Scott is rewriting it. Yeah, he's doing, I mean, he's not doing it for us. He sat here with the zoning commission and we hammered it out over two meetings.
Is that not something, just asking, is that not something we both should do? I'd like to know why it's not there.
This was free. This is part of regional planning's commitment to the township. It's part of our time. So we can talk to Scott and see how soon he'll have that back to us in a finished form.
At your last meeting, I was not there, of course, but isn't the expectation you'll have it for the May 8th meeting?
And that's not soon enough.
But this is exactly what I'm trying to avoid. We're paying her to do a job. When we start looking at things for free, we get delays. We don't have time for delays. You guys are already swamped with what you've got going on. We're asking for next to the impossible from you, and I understand that. I am not gonna have someone else throw a roadblock.
We have the drafted text of where we were that we discussed, and I can pass that along to you with the suggested changes with Scott. You
There
wanna
seemed to
hammer
be a
down
bit
Scott?
of confusion, at least on my part. My understanding was that Holly wanted the procedures to be finished and then provided to her so that she would know what it was that we were doing in terms of the revision that was taking place
Well, originally I
in
wanted to write that,
13.
but I was told Scott would write them, which is fine. But then I said, get a copy to me, but I haven't gotten it yet. And now we move this on. So,
I'm still confused.
Well, if the CRCD goes to the zoning commission to set a hearing, we're setting it without Article 32 in hand. Even though it refers to a new Article 32, which are the procedures.
So then 32 should have been dealt with before CRCD.
Well, but this was,
Once again, here's the horse and here's the cart.
yeah, but, you know,
The cart's going down the road and the horse is chasing.
Or it could have been done simultaneously.
It should have.
and that's what we were trying to do. Scott was doing one and we were doing the other. Holly was doing the other. Holly's done, Scott's not done. So we can push Scott to get his finished version. Or I can give you the draft that we worked on last, and you can take that and turn it into
I
a,
would like to see a draft of whatever he comes up with in her hands before we decide. I'd like to see your opinion of whatever it is.
okay,
That was my expectation as to what was going to
Yeah.
happen, but you guys set things up and you schedule your meetings. You determine what you're dealing with. This process that we started 6 months ago. And the emphasis was to get the procedures finished so that it could in fact go to Holly.
But that just hasn't happened in this timeline.
this is moving faster. And so we can't let that happen, so.
Hypothetically, if I was to say, Holly, how fast could you have procedures to us?
End of the week.
Find out from Scott if he's gonna be done by the end of the week,
we're on Tuesday, okay.
and if not,
All right, so whether or not Scott gets his finished version, I'll get our drafted version.
because I want this, if we're getting ready to, did we vote on it?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Okay, we voted to send this through, and this is, we're
It's
gonna,
incomplete.
it's incomplete. And before this gets handed to the zoning commission, I want the policy or the procedures on top of it. Or it doesn't go.
And section 32, which is this procedure section, is it just a standalone like procedure section and it will apply to all the new overlays and then the PRC?
Not all the. new
Not,
Oh.
just the CRCD and the PRCD.
Okay, so
I
two
wrote
resolutions.
the procedures for the mixed use,
Right.
and those all went with,
And those are in the mixed use.
In the zoning commission's hands right now.
Okay.
Good.
But I was told to hold on the procedures for this.
Oh, because Scott was already working.
If Scott doesn't have it. at the end of the day, to go ahead and get them in our hands so we can look at them and decide yay or nay, so that we can get them in, I'm gonna use this term, Mike's hands. And the zoning commission hands, so that they can have a complete program before they try to make a decision.
So let me make sure I'm clear with you. I'm waiting for the end of the week to know what I get from Scott. Then if I don't get anything, then I'm giving it to you. So when I said I can have something to the end of the week.
I understand that.
Okay.
So you're gonna find out Friday morning, I'd like it by Friday, morning, right? I want to ask much. I mean, I think that's,
So
yeah, no, I understand. Let's put it this way. When's your next meeting, Mike?
The 24th, we're having hearings. There's no
Oh,
meeting
So
scheduled
this,
for
you
that.
guys would be.
The next meeting would be May the 1st.
By May the 1st, you need this with the procedures in front of it.
Just,
attached to it.
and that's just to set a hearing date. Not-
Well, if we're gonna,
Right, that's what I'm saying.
yeah,
I think we need to have
normally-
everything
Yeah, so
done.
you find out by the end of this week whether Scott's done or not and gets anything to you. If he doesn't, then
Then I do it and
next
get it by the
week
end
after
of
that.
next week.
Will Smith.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, we
Nothing like a threat to be
can't-
replaced to get a letter.
we can't have, in the future, anything like this, if we're gonna deal with the county. They have to be on our timeline, not us on theirs.
they are on our timeline. We set this timeline up. We started the whole process. We were meeting once a month.
No,
If someone had told us that it needed to be changed, we could have changed it. Simple as that.
I'm not sure, Scott.
I don't know that Scott, I mean, we could have,
I'm not
We would have
trying to say anything to you. I understand your, I'm saying that when we are trying, we know, everybody in this room knows the urgency that we have. I'm not 100% sure we always get that urgency from the outside. I
well,
don't know.
I'm not disagreeing with you on that point. All I'm saying is that if the procedures. We can't move forward in terms of setting a date for the CCRD until you have the procedures for it. Then those procedures. We should have in fact not done what we did. We should have done it differently. But the process was set up. We were moving it forward with the understanding that the timeline was okay, it was going to work, but now I'm hearing it's not going to work. May the 8th would not be
No,
soon
it's
enough to
working.
have
It
the.
will work. It will work because we're gonna have it all together by the time you need it.
By May the 1st,
Yes.
then we're gonna have two different sets of procedures possibly, is what you're saying.
No, you're only gonna have one that works. You're only
No,
gonna have one. You're only gonna have one that, no, you won't. No, you won't. You'll have one set.
The zoning commission has to approve it.
I understand.
So I'm just telling you that at this point, their expectation, meaning the group, is not what you're saying tonight. And therefore,
Their expectation is what?
they were going to meet, the schedule called for that to happen on May the 8th. Right, Tom?
Yeah.
So now you're moving that, you're telling the zoning commission that the procedures that they worked on are going to be ignored, potentially. Unless Scott provides them to Holly and Holly and Scott start working together, which is fully possible. If they're willing to do it.
And I think what I outlined in terms of the procedure is really the meat and potatoes of that article. That's how, that's what the text said. You go from a site analysis and a conceptual plan, and just, step by step to the hearing and then present it to the trustees. And that, writing that up and putting it in.
But is it going to be done? Is it going to be done?
Scott's, I would say 90%, 95% done with it, because the last changes we made were not significant. Right? He's gonna clean it up, give it back to us. If Mike or I tell him we need it back before May 1st, and he can't do it, one way or the other, I'll get a copy of something to Holly.
I was gonna say, it kind of seems like it almost makes the most sense to have Scott, who's done 90% of this work and has a almost done draft, presumably. If he can get it wrapped up by May 1st, great. If he doesn't feel he can, pass on what he has to Holly to clean up. And we're done.
But I need to know by the end of the week.
Right.
Yeah,
So
she
you have
needs
to-
it sooner, she needs it before May 1st. If we're going to try to set a hearing date on May the 1st. She can't have it received, she can't be receiving it on May the 1st. She needs it sooner than that.
So someone needs to reach out to Scott and find out if he can have the draft finalized by the end of the week.
Let's just leave them, let's leave them alone. Let's just hope. Let's just hope that by May the 1st, it's on the table for you guys to look at. All right, don't worry about it.
Yes, as I said, Well, it wouldn't necessarily have to be another month. We just have to have a special meeting in the zoning commission.
Yeah, they can have
That meeting-
special-
I know they can.
They have to-
I know they
agree to
can,
do
but
it.
I know they can.
I know what you're saying.
So. Jody and Tom, basically, I was out of town for this last meeting, so whatever transpired there, aware of the details, I'm not.
Okay.
So if. I don't know, Tom, you would probably, you and Joni need to reach out to Scott and.
Let's just simplify it this way, so we can continue to move on. This was made, a motion was passed to move this on.
Yes.
I think we need to have entertain another motion to amend that motion, that this doesn't get moved on without a procedure attached to it.
Or that we make a motion that we expedite Article 32, which is the procedure article,
Okay,
and that the zoning commission shouldn't set a hearing if they don't have both articles ready to go. I mean, you're saying we shouldn't act on one.
whichever way, I'm just making a recommendation. Board needs to make that motion, and I'm just here to kind of direct.
I don't want to backtrack, excuse me. I don't want to backtrack. We already approved that. So now we need a motion to get Article 32 with that in order to send it. Or is that just sort of automatic?
No, because essentially this already got moved over. This is ready to go.
Because everything is being run through this committee, so I don't feel comfortable with the zoning commission receiving something that this committee hasn't seen without you having a motion to say you're okay with that.
Oh, so you're saying we probably need to see Article 32?
You don't need to, but you,
Makes sense, but it would.
everything else you've seen.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
Motions get really confusing.
Can we, table passing that on until we see Article 32?
I think you're delaying yourself, so I think we move it on. I think the right thing to do is to get it. Make a motion to get it, the procedures onto the zoning commission. And just hope that Scott can get them by May 1st.
Or we, again, I'm sorry, guys. So or Tom's gonna call Scott like tomorrow, the next day, whenever you get a hold of him, say, how fast can we get this? Is that what you're doing?
Yeah.
If he can't get it to us fast enough, then we're gonna give you what we got
Yeah.
and let you finish it up.
Well, I was told not to do that. That's why I want a motion.
Oh,
I
I
need a
see.
motion because I'm getting mixed signals
Me
from
too.
everybody and I
Me
need to
too.
know what I am doing.
You were told not to, because that's what was coming.
Right.
Thank you, Holly. We do need clarification.
Oh, my God.
Whatever this committee wants to do, I'm just saying, my personal opinion is, if we send this up, which I don't want to slow down or stop, because.
Right.
But if we send this up to them incomplete,
No, we won't send it incomplete. We can't give it to them incomplete. We
Well,
have to be done. So,
I mean, we can send it the way it is with the understanding that they're not gonna do anything with it until they get the other half.
No, because if you set a hearing date, you started the legal.
No,
process.
well, they're not gonna set a hearing, but they're not.
okay. I make a motion.
Jim, before you, I think the point we have to decide is. Are we willing to pass? Article 32, which we haven't seen. Along to the zoning commission
Without coming to here.
without any more discussion on it.
Or are we allowed, if Scott gives us Article 32 and we let Holly see it,
But that's not us.
that's not us, I'm just asking, if we let Holly see it and she thinks it's all right,
Are we okay with that?
are we okay with that?
I think that's the point.
That's the point.
Are we willing to say expedite the completion of Article 32? Even if that means we don't get to read it before Holly does. She can email us and say, I think that we're not gonna have a meeting. Well, nothing that we'll vote on, other than right now. I mean, I'm okay passing it, giving it to Holly. She vets it and says, you're okay, right? And,
I'm okay with that.
and we'll give it to the zoning commission,
I'm okay with that. As long as Holly gets to look at it, I'm okay with that.
and that's your motion.
That's my motion. Oh. All right, so I hereby move that we get whatever work product we can out of Scott Sanders. Being completed or not completed. And give it to Holly
By no later than
by no later than. what's
Monday the
date,
20.
Friday?
Fourth,
That Monday the 24th.
Monday the 24th.
This Friday, right?
That's the 21st.
The 21st.
21st is Friday.
Yeah, so Holly gets
Monday.
he gets the work product
Monday or Friday.
no later than Friday.
Friday the 21st.
And at that point, she either finishes the product and or examines the work product. So that it can be moved on
Directly to the zoning commission.
correctly to the zoning commission
by May 1st.
by May 1st. That's a long.
Can I have a motion? Do I have
So-
a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
You got a question?
My question was going to be, just to make sure that I'm understanding correctly now. What's gonna come to the zoning commission will be the CCRD and the procedures. Not later than May the 1st.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
Fine, thank you.
And, have a motion and a second, and other discussion, do roll call vote, please.
Shannon,
Yes.
McClary,
And
Can't vote.
I vote yes. Richardson,
I,
Snodgrass,
Yes.
Steele Smith,
yes.
motion passes 6-0.
Sorry, I brought that up, but it has to be.
Oh, I'm glad you did.
all right,
Getting
anything
clarification.
else? Anything else? Any of the committees have anything?
Yes. I know you want to get out of here, but that's my job.
You got 20. You got 27 minutes.
So a couple things, few interesting things. And especially being on Zoom, why he hands that out. There were some articles, there's a group in Licking County, and they're not a wham group. They actually post actual things going on over at Intel. One article I thought was interesting, some of you may have seen it. Main Street will be closed this week. For the start of a major overhaul. It will be a 5-lane road from 161 to Green Chapel Road once done.
What will we?
Main Road.
Okay.
And it is showing a completion date of the summer of 2024. So what happens is, and then they show pictures of the equipment moving in. This is really the beginning, because now they're closing down roads and putting in 5-lane Main Road. I assume they're doing that one before they do anything in 62. Because they don't want to do both at the same time. As things come closer to home, we have dump trucks running all over the place. And they're bringing dirt over to the southeast corner of Harlem Township, where we have 100 acres and a big pile. So dirt is coming from the Intel site, and a second mound is being built over there. Like I said, that is now into Harlem Township. And these trucks are running up and down all over, including Center Village Road, as they make their way around. So I just want everybody to know what kind of impact everything's having on us. So this is just a quick work product. You'll notice I dated it and signed it, it said very preliminary. So nobody wants to think that. So this is food for thought as we leave. Again, on the northeast corner, we already talked about the, Galena, the track close to Galena. That we're gonna hold off on that.
Northwest.
I'm sorry, northwest. I'm sorry, guys. Then northeast, it says new MU, that's new mixed use. We've got a whole area we gotta start to define. But this is not this is not defined, this is just an area of, that's gonna need defined. And start working on track by track, and I'm asking at this point for Holly to start doing some preliminary work on that also for me. Also, I'm asking that Holly contact Galena and see when they think they're gonna cross the creek and start coming this way, what kind of capacity that they're looking at. The other thing in the back of my mind, Holly, is, and I don't know when and how you approach it. In order to protect our northwest side, some of the committee members and us were discussing, is there such a thing as being able, would they be willing to let us use their sewer? And not annex?
Right, and there is a such thing, and I've actually, suggested to the mayor a non-annexation agreement. She seemed receptive, but she needed a city council, I haven't heard back from her.
Yeah, so anyway, that's on our mind also. Which would help them in that we could actually sort of coordinate what we're going to do based on their sewer capacity and what they're willing to do. Yeah. Okay, any questions? Okay,
Oh,
go ahead.
wouldn't like a new mixed use up in that corner be dependent on sewers getting extended up that way in the future?
We're worried about the sewers coming from Johnstown.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, congratulations.
Okay.
Then also, the reason we're all the way up to 37, we have contact from property owners up there who have large tracts of ground that had contacted the zoning department about possibly doing an industrial zoning up there on 37. So we have to go back and contact those property owners and ask them if they want to be in the mixed use overlay with a type of industrial zoning, or if they just want standalone industrial zoning, and then that would move ours down a little bit on what we're planning. So I included that area on this, just so everybody can get an idea of what's going on. But like I said, we do have a major property owner who's thinking about industrial on that 37 corridor.
Can I back up for a second, where you said that you were doing the option of a new mixed use with the industrial included?
That's just coffee.
But we're let them do a regular industrial?
I don't know if, I don't know that we want to have industrial without them.
Right,
You see what I'm saying?
We do have a PID.
that's what I was asking, is there a plan?
Yes.
Industrial, okay.
Right. Oh, I see, you didn't.
No, there is one.
Yeah. Oh, no, no.
Okay.
So,
And since they're not really sure about what they want to do, I think planned industrial gives them the option where a mixed use, they kind of have to move quickly. They have to know what they
we
want.
have to have conversation. I would like to have conversation with them.
Right.
As to what they're thinking. I have talked to them twice, just real quick.
Right.
And, but that's what's happened, that corner is gonna move. Just from, what she's saying, the contact she's been getting, and, they're redoing, patchwork, well, they're actually gonna resurface 37 now. Beef it up a little bit, but I think there's gonna be a change on 37 up there also. So, we need to do something. And, but I wanted to bring that up, and poor Molly didn't realize.
I live in that sector.
Stuff's coming her way.
It's inevitable, it's coming everybody's way.
Yeah, it is. So you guys didn't get us new information for you now too.
Yes.
Yeah,
Oh, we're like.
we were just kind of like, industrial up there. Yeah, so it's good to know. Yeah, okay, so if no other questions. That's all I got right now. We're busy.
What is 37 you talking about?
Northeast.
I mean, look, it's
Here.
37.
37, that little diagonal right there.
That's it, okay.
I'm
Jim.
sorry, when I'm thinking township.
Yeah,
I have a question for Jim.
Yes.
The property owner that you're talking about, have they been a long-term property owner? So they at one point would have known under the previous master plan, that area you're specifically talking about was in fact designated industrial.
I think part of it is up there, but I don't think I haven't looked into it, Mike, what the actual is up there. I don't think I think she's agricultural.
Okay, well, no, I'm just saying that at one point, the old master plan did identify an area up there specifically.
We
as
we
industrial.
didn't get into that. She just came and said that.
Okay,
she
no, I was
asking Mike
wondering
it
if
was
they
just-
were trying to use that, and yes, Holly,
No.
there are two industrial districts, one's a straight industrial, and then there's a planned industrial.
Right, yeah, there are two. But like I said, I think she's thinking they're AR1. Again, and they don't know what to do. She doesn't know, which way to go, and we need to include her. Well, either way, we're gonna do something for them. But we don't know if it's gonna be under the master umbrella or just, yeah, the overlay.
I was just curious as to whether or not they knew that, so they were pushing for that.
No, they didn't know. She didn't know anything.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Am I up? Am I up?
oh, I kind of thought so. Go ahead. Bruce.
Okay, on the sewer side, Tom received notice from the project manager on the sewer expansion that they actually issued their notice to proceed on April 6th. And with that notice to proceed, the in-service date they're targeting is April 10th of 2026 and final completion September 7th, 2026. So that is now formally moving and paperwork's been signed. On the power and electric side, I think Molly sent a note to all of us sharing AEP's myriad of expansion plans. I think they're calling it the Vassal Green Chapel enhancements. There are a couple of meetings for all those that are interested that might be burdened by those changes that people can attend. One of them is Tuesday, May 2nd at Johnstown High School from 5:30 to 7:30. One closer to all of us would be Wednesday, the May 3rd, again, 5:30 to 7:30 at the Sunbury United Methodist Church. They're planning construction starting summer of 2024 and it going through spring of 2026. So they've got a lot of pull. So I think if people are interested and want to go to the meeting, at least they could share what they could be concerned about from what they've seen on the drawings. Quite a bit's gone on the watershed and drainage side over the last few weeks. We had Ed, our committee member, he met with Scott Stevens and Brett Bacon, Delaware County Soil and Water, to discuss drainage planning and administration. Scott had come to an earlier meeting of our work group, so it was a follow-on to that. And the outcome of that meeting was that we are now going to establish a meeting with Brett Bergeford, who's the deputy drainage engineer, and Mike Love, the deputy development engineer, to try and work on a plan of how we can establish enforceability on drainage and installation and planning to make sure it's gets a little tighter than certainly what we've got now. And then the other thing that happened is Tom brokered a meeting with a group that's called the Mad Scientist Associates, just to have an exploratory meeting to talk about possibility of a township-wide stormwater management plan, whether that could be feasible and what that might entail to look at what we could do township-wide. So it was an introductory meeting that Tom set up that I attended. I thought was a really, really good meeting. And lastly, I think the Newark Advocate did report some of what Jim was talking about with Mink Road, but also the 161 expansion that ODOT's planning. But now they've got a group with Jersey Township and Licking County trying to determine if maybe they want to take that 161 expansion even farther, perhaps to 310 or 37. I think 62 is already in the works. So the good news was I saw that Wolpert is running that project or been assigned. So I'll be working with Ron to see what he can tell us about not only that project, but anything else that he may be hearing going on with roads in our closer area. And that's it, unless anybody has any questions.
That's a lot.
Thanks, Bruce. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks. Anybody else?
Yeah, from communications, I think everyone has seen that I've tried to do a lot of good work on the township website, getting up-to-date information on there. I'm going to continue to do so, keep meeting minutes timely. I am putting together, or I'm hoping to put together kind of like an FAQ section on there, with kind of like frequently asked questions or things that come up a lot that people wonder about in the township. So if anyone has any ideas or thoughts on like things to definitely include in like an FAQ section, please let me know, and I'll try to incorporate those. At this point, I think unless other people feel differently, the communications kind of subcommittee had discussed that we don't feel that we would get very much use at this point in time with sending out a survey. We kind of got behind the ball of timeline wise of where that would make sense. And especially since sending out a survey almost implies that we would take some sort of action on the results of that survey, which at this point, I don't think we would. It'd be more informational than anything. So in lieu of a survey, I'm just gonna try to get more information posted up on the website to kind of interact with the township a little bit more. One idea I tossed around was having kind of like a quiz of sorts. You can kind of create like a form in Google Forms that is like, kind of to go along with like the FAQs, sort of like a test your knowledge on what the township is, what's going on here, and it would be like you answer a few questions, then you would get like the answers to see like, how well, how well people are understanding all of this, and it would be less of a survey and more of like a kind of fun way to drive engagement with residents. So those are my thoughts. Again, with the FAQ piece, if you have anything you feel strongly about that you want included, just let me know.
Right. Any other committee? Anybody else? Anybody from the public? Anything? Anybody out in Zoom land? Anything? All right, having nothing, I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we leave.
I have a motion to leave. We have a second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Couldn't help but notice, I'm sure one sitting up there, here, this is, my motion, so you put a renovation up there. See what's numbered up there, well, I